I know I don't say this enough, but thank you, Dad. You know, for doing this. I love you.
I love you, son.
The character of Harry Osborn is definitely going to be one to look out for by the time we see more of the sequel in action. But regardless, welcome back, true believers and all you spectacular Spidey fans, to another very exciting and a little bit upsetting Marvel Spider-Man 2 related video. And this video in particular is going to be a little bit of a doozy for me personally, considering that the news that we are going to talk about today does in fact originate from one of my own tweets. Or more specifically, the real highlight of all this does come from someone else who ended up quoting my tweet. And to make things even more intriguing is that the quote tweet that was made from my own tweet has now been deleted, which likely indicates that Insomniac and Marvel probably didn't want this news to be out just yet. However, there were other people online who ended up screenshotting this tweet before it got a chance to be fully deleted. And since then, this has made the headlines of various gaming journalist news articles. So originally I wasn't going to talk about this tweet considering that the author of it did decide to delete it, but ever since then it can be seen by the general public on various gaming outlets. And since it's now out there for everyone to see, I might as well talk about it too. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I am referring to a brand new tweet relating to Marvel Spider-Man 2 that was made directly by the voice actor of Harry Osborn himself, of Scott Porter, where most notably in the superhero games realm, he has portrayed Star-Lord in the Telltale Guardians of the Galaxy game, as well as Nightwing in Batman Arkham Knight, and even is going to be voicing Bucky Barnes in the upcoming character DLC for Marvel's Avengers. Now, before we continue any further, I do want to highlight that there will indeed be spoilers pertaining to God of War Ragnarok, which is one of the latest games that Scott has been featured in. And if you don't want to know which character Scott plays, or if you haven't been playing the game for yourself, then I highly suggest you click off now, and then come back once you're caught up with the game. So the main two roles that Scott has played that I brought up within my recent tweet is that not only is he the main voice of Harry Osborn within Spider-Man PS4, but he also fully played Heimdall within God of War Ragnarok, which I have personally been playing recently and is without a doubt my personal pick for Game of the Year of 2022. There are some pretty phenomenal moments and performances scattered throughout the entirety of this game, but the main one that stood out the most to me is none other than Scott Porter as Heimdall. Especially when you get to Heimdall's boss fight, that is where Scott's performance as the character truly shines. And because of that, it led me to make this tweet, where I stated Scott Porter's performance as Heimdall in God of War Ragnarok has made me even more hyped for Marvel's Spider-Man 2, since he also voices Harry Osborn in Insomniac's universe. Seeing where Harry's narrative goes in the sequel is going to create some pretty phenomenal storytelling. Now, that's a pretty basic tweet simply praising someone's performance in a video game, but then only a half an hour later, Scott Porter himself went on to quote tweet me, to which he went on to bring up some pretty interesting and a little bit disheartening news relating to Marvel's Spider-Man 2, where Scott specifically stated, "While I voiced Harry in the first Spider-Man, I unfortunately will not be in the sequel. They," meaning Insomniac, "decided to go photoreal, and the difference between me and Harry's ages was too much to overcome, I believe. I was bummed, but I get it. Gonna be an incredible game." So not only is it great to receive an actual update of sorts for Marvel Spider-Man 2 coming from one of the game's previous cast members, but there actually is quite a lot to take away from the statements that Scott made. Plus, it's also really cool that he took the time to quote tweet my own post. So thanks, Scott, for being such an awesome guy. But given everything that Scott said here, it makes me even more hyped to see what Marvel Spider-Man 2 will look like fully running on full PS5 hardware. Scott primarily brought up that Marvel Spider-Man 2 is going to be taking a photorealistic approach when it comes to the game's main visual design and graphical aesthetic. This was not only shown within the first trailer for Marvel Spider-Man 2, where it was previously confirmed by the VFX manager at Insomniac Games herself of Brianna Lindsay that the trailer that we did see of Marvel Spider-Man 2 in action is in fact the game's graphics running in real time on the PS5 and not CGI at all. But this was obviously the core crux of the still controversial choice that Insomniac did make to change the face model of Peter Parker's actor of John Bubniak to the now current face model of Ben Jordan, which, based on their reasoning, was simply to gain a better performance from main actor of Spider-Man / Peter Parker Yuri Lowenthal in order to bring his performance to life in a more realistic way. Now, I'm pretty much a broken record at this point where I do say that I still heavily prefer the original version of Peter Parker's face model of John Bubniak in comparison to the now current Ben Jordan, especially considering that this is a Peter Parker in his prime who has been Spider-Man for, at this point, a little over 9 to 10 years. So giving Peter's design a much more mature aesthetic in comparison to that of a youthful one definitely makes sense for the narrative that Insomniac has set out to make for this game's universe, which is why I will always personally prefer John over Ben. But I will say, which is something that I've always said about Ben Jordan's face model, is that from a visual standpoint, he does look graphically better and more detailed than the John Bubniak model, which is obviously in thanks to the PS5's hardware and capabilities. And if we take the recently revealed Marvel Spider-Man 2 variant cover into consideration, where we do see our first official look of Peter Parker within the game's universe as it stands right now, the main design that Insomniac is taking with Peter Parker does look a bit more visually polished and is definitely looking more accurate to what Ben Jordan looks like in real life. So I bring all that up to say that if Insomniac is taking that same approach with Harry Osborn, that definitely means that he's going to have a pretty large role within Marvel's Spider-Man 2 if they felt to need to recast Harry's main actor. Now, I will say that even though I will miss hearing Scott's voice as Harry Osborn within the Insomniac universe, this isn't as drastic of a change in comparison to completely changing the face of Peter Parker. Considering that Peter Parker is indeed Spider-Man himself, and we do spend a lot of time with him in and out of the Spider-Man suit, it really made the shift from John to Ben a lot more discomforting and jarring. But with the case of Harry Osborn, he doesn't play as heavy as a role as Peter does within the first game. And instead, we only hear Harry throughout the majority of the first game within audio logs that were left at his research stations, and only get to see Harry himself at the very end of the game with the Venom post-credit scene, as well as pictures from Peter's past. And for the case of Marvel's Spider-Man 2, just like with how Insomniac decided to switch from John Bubniak to Ben Jordan in order to enhance Yuri Lowenthal's performance as Peter Parker, it looks like they're going to be taking things a step further when it comes to Harry Osborn, considering that Yuri Lowenthal is still playing Peter Parker in Marvel's Spider-Man 2, but when it comes to Scott Porter, Insomniac felt the need to recast Harry completely in order to provide a much more youthful version of the character, which we as both Peter and Miles will likely be interacting with during certain points of the game's story, which again gives further credence that it likely is going to be Harry as Venom instead of Eddie Brock. But whether or not this choice that Insomniac has seemingly made for Harry's character will be a good one for Marvel's Spider-Man 2, we'll just have to wait and see. But simply hearing from Scott himself that Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is going to be an incredible game definitely makes us as Spidey fans all the more excited. And with all that said, everyone, that's the video I have for you today, and please let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think of Scott Porter's details pertaining to Marvel's Spider-Man 2, and does this make you even more or less excited to see Harry's character return within the sequel? I don't know who Insomniac might have in mind to recast as Harry Osborn within their universe, but I did thoroughly enjoy Scott's performance with what little we had within the first game. So I really hope that whoever brings Harry to life next is going to do him justice. And with all that said, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy, and for more Marvel's Spider-Man 2 videos like this in the future, stay spectacular, Spidey fans, and peace out.